The shadow of privilege. Leo Sterling was a boy born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he treated it like a diamond-encrusted scepter. At 24, he possessed the angular jawline of a movie star and a shock of thick, dark hair that he often ran a hand through with a cocky flourish. He moved through the world as if everyone else were a supporting character in his own grand narrative. His eyes, a cool, piercing blue, seemed to size up people and places, calculating their worth and their use to him. For him, the world was a playground designed for his amusement, a stage built for his sole performance. His daily life was a meticulously crafted ballet of ease. He woke each morning to the soft hum of air conditioning in his penthouse, a minimalist masterpiece of glass and steel overlooking the city. The space, with its panoramic views and sleek, impersonal furniture, felt less like a home and more like a testament to his father's influence. He would spend his mornings lounging, dismissing calls from assistants and managers with a flick of his finger. He saw them as mere cogs in the machinery that facilitated his pleasure, a class of people who existed only to serve his whims. He would walk past doormen and delivery drivers without a glance, his silent but palpable air of superiority a constant, chilling presence. His friends were little more than hangers-on, a curated collection of sycophants drawn to his wealth and the extravagant parties he threw. They laughed at his jokes, even the cruel ones, and flattered him relentlessly, a constant chorus reinforcing his self-importance. They were his audience, his loyal subjects, and he expected nothing less than their unwavering devotion. In turn, he gifted them extravagant items, not out of generosity, but as a form of payment for their loyalty. It was a transaction, a reminder of his power and their subservience. Relationships with women were fleeting conquests, discarded as soon as the thrill wore off. He was a master of the romantic performance, adept at making grand promises and filling the air with intoxicating flattery. But his words were as hollow as his character, and he saw no reason to change. He would parade a different companion on his arm each week, treating them as little more than accessories to his lavish lifestyle. Their feelings and hopes were irrelevant to him. They were simply a means to an end, another game to be won and then forgotten. The whispers of his exploits were common in the city's most exclusive circles, but they had always been just that, whispers, a quiet hum of gossip. The Sterling name and Arthur's immense influence had always been a shield, a protective force field against public scrutiny. But that shield was beginning to thin. A new kind of attention, more predatory and less forgiving, was starting to circle his name, a storm of online commentators and journalists gathering on the horizon, hungry for a story that would finally expose his true nature. The party at the Sterling estate was a spectacle of pure opulence. The air hummed with the hypnotic bass of a famous DJ, the intoxicating scent of expensive perfume, and the constant clinking of champagne flutes. The meticulously manicured grounds were lit with thousands of string lights, bathing the scene in a warm, ethereal glow that made the chaos feel beautiful. It was a picture-perfect backdrop for Leo's latest display of excess, a celebration of a life without consequence. Leo, dressed in a silk shirt unbuttoned halfway down his chest, white linen trousers and a gleaming gold watch, was the undisputed center of it all. He held court by the shimmering infinity pool, his voice a dominant, boisterous sound that cut through the music. He made a mockery of sincere conversations, turning them into punchlines for his hangers-on. His laughter was loud, a mocking sound that followed anyone who showed a hint of ambition that didn't involve him, a clear sign of his disdain for anyone not already at the top. It was at this party that he first laid eyes on Isabella Rossi, a young Italian-American woman with expressive green eyes and wavy light brown hair that framed a face of quiet elegance. Dressed in a stunning emerald green gown that contrasted beautifully with her delicate features, she was a quiet presence among the noise. Leo, drawn by her serene grace, saw her not as a person but as his next conquest. He singled her out, charming her with practiced ease, his blue eyes seemingly full of genuine interest. He told her about his vision for a future where their family's influence would merge, a life of shared power and privilege. He spoke with a conviction so powerful it was almost magnetic. "We could be a dynasty, Isabella," he whispered, his words a heady mix of flattery and ambition. "Our names, our futures intertwined." He spoke with such passion that she almost believed him, captivated by the beautiful lie. It was a game he had played countless times, a script he knew by heart, and he saw no reason to stop now. Later that evening, at a charity gala, the game came to its cruel conclusion. He abandoned her publicly, leaving her alone on the dance floor to face the media's glare as he walked away with another woman. The reporter's flashes seemed to capture not just her shock and humiliation, but the stark cruelty of his actions, a moment frozen in time. The whispers in the crowd began to turn into louder murmurs, a collective condemnation that was now impossible to ignore. For the first time, Leo's actions had a consequence beyond his control. The morning after the gala, a story broke in a major online publication. The headline was a venomous indictment that seemed to scream from every screen. Sterling's silver spoon, the heir who throws it all away. The article meticulously detailed his reckless behavior, his long history of casual relationships, and most damningly, his public abandonment of Isabella. It was no longer a whisper, it was a roar. The article included a series of candid photos from the previous night, contrasting Isabella's elegant, heartbroken face with Leo's smug, dismissive smirk. The writer's prose was a scathing exposé, a clear and direct attack on his character, and by extension, the entire Sterling family. The images and words together created a narrative of a soulless playboy, and it was spreading like wildfire across the internet. The digital article, with its biting commentary and humiliating photos, went viral within hours. Isabella was forced to face a deluge of online comments and media inquiries that she was completely unprepared for. Her poise and grace from the previous night were replaced by a profound sadness and public humiliation that stained her name simply for being associated with his. At Sterling Holdings, Arthur Sterling's phone rang relentlessly. Board members, once sycophantic, now questioned his family values, their voices tight with feigned concern. Long-standing business partners expressed their concern, a euphemism for a growing lack of trust. A major multi-million-dollar deal was put on hold as key investors cited reputational risk. Arthur, a man of integrity and careful calculation, saw his life's work being tarnished by the actions of his son. Arthur, a man in his late 50s with a face lined with a combination of wisdom and deep weariness, felt his legacy crumbling. His silver-flecked black hair was meticulously styled, and his strong, aquiline nose and square jaw gave him an air of unshakable authority. But for the first time, that authority felt hollow. He knew he had to act, not just as a CEO protecting his company, but as a father who had failed to instill the right values in his own son. He felt a deep, wrenching pain that no amount of money could soothe. He summoned Leo to his office. The room itself was a monument to his success. Dark mahogany, polished brass, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city he had helped build. The air was thick with the unspoken weight of his disappointment, a palpable tension that made the room feel smaller, colder. Arthur was seated behind his large mahogany desk, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his usual armor of power. His expression was not one of anger, but of profound weariness and sorrow. He looked at Leo not as a boss, but as a man who had failed to impart the most basic lessons of decency. He held the newspaper with the damning article, the headline a glaring indictment. Leo walked in with a swagger still in his step, wearing a crisp white polo and dark designer jeans. He was prepared to dismiss the whole thing as a minor inconvenience, a temporary storm that would pass. "It's a misunderstanding, Dad," he said with a wave of his hand, as if brushing away a fly. "I'll handle it. I'll have the lawyers call their lawyers. It's nothing." He couldn't grasp the true gravity of the situation. Arthur shook his head, a gesture of profound disappointment. "You don't handle shame, Leo. You live with it. This isn't a business deal. This is our name, our integrity. I can buy a lot of things, but I can't buy back our name, and I can't buy you a conscience. You've brought shame not just to yourself, but to the memory of our family." Each word was a blow, stripping away Leo's arrogance piece by piece. For the first time in his life, Leo felt a tremor of something other than power. The words hit him like a physical blow, stripping away his arrogance. He saw his father, a man who had always seemed to stand on an unshakable foundation, now looking broken. His swagger faltered, replaced by a sudden chilling hollowness. The world, he suddenly realized, was not at his fingertips. It was looking at him, and it didn't like what it saw. The silence in the office was deafening. Leo stood there, the weight of his father's words pressing down on him. The cool blue of his eyes seemed to lose their piercing quality, becoming clouded with a dawning realization that he had been living a lie. The reflection in the large office windows was no longer the face of a triumphant king, but of a scared, directionless boy. He saw the headlines not as an amusing spectacle, but as a mirror reflecting the ugliness of his own actions. He had always seen himself as a king, but now he saw a boy in an empty crown, surrounded by the ruins of his own making. The pain in his father's eyes was a silent testament to the harm he had caused, a weight heavier than any gold watch. He replayed the past months, the parties, the endless parade of women, the dismissive laughter. Every act of cruelty, every casual lie, now felt like a stone weighing him down. He had been so proud of his ability to handle things, but now he understood that he had been leaving a trail of broken promises and hurt people in his wake. The realization brought with it a cold sense of shame that no amount of money could fix. It was a feeling far more powerful and lasting than the fleeting thrills he had chased. The gold watch on his wrist felt heavy, a symbol of the wealth that had blinded him, a crown that was now a burden. He had traded integrity for fleeting pleasure, and now he had nothing. The world, he suddenly realized, was not at his fingertips. It was looking at him, and it didn't like what it saw. He was no longer the center of his own universe. He was a small, broken part of a much larger, more complex world he had ignored for too long. The empty crown was the only thing that remained of his kingdom, a monument to a pride that had left him with nothing but a difficult journey ahead.